Grand evening, East Coast, West Coast, and everywhere in between. Welcome to the MWR Financial Make Wealth Real University. Please take these last few moments to get your members on the platform and your team so they can see and hear the true value of such an exclusive invitation-only wealth membership where lifestyle and legacy connect. Stay tuned to take a sneak peek at our expert for tonight.
Old, broke. Well, that's not good. Seriously, though, this is where millions and millions of people are headed if something doesn't change now. And that's why we created the Private Reserve Account, a simple way for mainstream Americans to secure their retirement, protect their loved ones, and fund their dreams along the way. Here's how it works. Imagine creating your own banking alternative. And not just some ordinary bank, but the ultimate bank. Think about that for a minute. If it's your bank, what benefits would you give yourself? It would be a bank where your savings account actually grows by being linked to stock market gains so you can benefit from those big rallies. And as your money grows, the gains are locked in, so no more of those scary drops. That's a win-win. You'd be able to access the growing value of your account anytime you want for any reason you have. No taxes, no qualifications, no questions asked. After all, it's your money. Oh, did we mention no taxes? And since it is your bank, you'd be earning the interest on the money you borrow from yourself while you pay yourself back. What? Let's keep going. You would have no early withdrawal penalties, unlimited contributions, and a college planning fund with no restrictions. When properly structured, your bank could pay off your mortgage in half the time, could provide living benefits for critical and terminal illness. And if something ever happened to you, your ultimate bank would be transferable to your heirs tax-free. Seems impossible, right? Nope. You just didn't know that the wealthy have been doing this for years. Now you're wondering, so why doesn't everyone open a private reserve account? Exactly. The real question is, why don't you? Contact your financial representative today to set up your private reserve account and help put a stop to America's retirement crisis. We're with you all the way.
For our hearing impaired visitors and viewers, closed captions are available live via Facebook and LinkedIn when you click the closed caption option below this stream. I am Darryl R. Banks, two-star executive director and founding member of this incredible company, MWR Financial, and your host of this weekly Thursday night Financial University, where we give you the information you need to succeed to get on the other side of money. And I tell you what, you want to get yourself grab a pen and a pad to take copious notes on the information that's going to be delivered tonight, because what you're going to hear is that private information, which is two sides, private and public. And this is that private information that you're going to hear about tonight that you're not going to want to miss. Listen, go ahead and grab your teams, grab your members, get them on this platform. We also want to congratulate our Facebook testimonial winner, Miss Yvonne Blanding. She submitted her testimony, and you can see her testimony on our Facebook testimonial page. Be sure to submit your testimony so you have an opportunity to have yourself selected and win a free month and also bragging rights for this incredible membership. Also, if you have not registered, please be sure to do so at makewealthrealevents.com, makewealthrealevents.com on November 4th for our Go Beyond virtual conference. That's going to be amazing. Also, register for the 2024 Atlanta, Georgia MWR Ignite event. So be sure to register for those both events on makewealthrealevents.com. So guys, let's see who's out there on the platform tonight. And all guests, please get back to the person who invited you, because you're going to want to know how to get this exclusive wealth membership immediately. Shout out to Mr. Benjamin McCrae. Welcome, sir. We're in Colorado. Mr. Christensen, welcome, sir. Teresa Cooper, welcome. Snellville, Georgia, welcome. Hinesville, Georgia in the house. Verna, like to see you here. Mr. McGee, Columbia, South Carolina, welcome to the platform, sir. Detroit in the house, welcome. Miss Wooten, welcome to the platform. Texas in the house, good evening. Edna Jarrett, welcome. Lewisburg, North Carolina. Miss Garner, welcome. Sumter, South Carolina, welcome. New York in the house, good evening. Boston, Massachusetts, good evening. Louisiana, welcome to the platform. Decatur, Georgia, welcome to the platform. Laurinburg, North Carolina, Ms. Ridgway, welcome to the platform. Gary, Indiana, welcome to the platform. Tallahassee, Florida, welcome to the platform. Thank you so much, Mr. Trevor Thompson. We appreciate you, sir. Listen, people are chiming in from all over the country to get this information. Use this platform as a peak tool to get people in front of this information to understand that education comes first. And this is what we do here on Thursday nights. But guys, listen, let's move forward with the gentleman and the expert that we have on tonight. He brings over a decade of service in this industry. In the financial services space, he actually is a consultant and a lead expert in the area of investments, and also our lead consultant for our MWR Multiply a Cash Flow division. Please help me welcome to our live, Mr. Cord Burner. Mr. Burner.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Man, I can hear you. You're looking well. We appreciate you being on the platform tonight. The live is yours, sir.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the generous introduction. Man, I can't wait to see everybody in Atlanta here in just, a few months. We're going to have in November, we'll see everybody virtually, but that's when I get the most out of this is we get to press the flesh, get to see each other in person. So I cannot wait. Thank you very much for the generous introduction. But guys, tonight we're talking about the private reserve account. I love Thursdays. Why? Because we get to talk about all the great things that are happening out in the financial world. Because it's a little challenging, isn't it? It's kind of crazy. We're close to Halloween, and it's like, man, some of the financial challenges that have happened with the economy are about more spooky than what we're going to have here in just a few weeks with Halloween. So what has been going on? You guys know about 3 weeks ago, we talked about banks and how they've been currently failing. You guys remember, about 6 months ago, we had 4 banks consecutively fail. And were you guys aware that there's 27 other banks that are under review? Not 10 banks, not even 20 banks, 27 other banks that are currently under review that have either been downgraded as a financial institution or they've been negatively rated. What does it mean if you're negatively rated or downgraded? It means, well, very simply, they don't have the liquidity. You guys remember when the U.S. economy was with the government, right? The country, the U.S. of A was downgraded as a creditor. How do they look at people, right? Institutions, countries as creditors. It's the same way as you and I. They look at liabilities versus assets, GDP. They were downgraded as a creditor. How are you guys feeling about that little thing called inflation? That's kind of been swept under the rug, right? Or at least people are talking about it because they feel it every day in their purchases. Well, what happened? How did we get here with inflation? 80%. Were you guys aware that 80% of all the US dollars that are currently in circulation were printed 24 short months ago? I want to say that again for effect. 80% of all the current money that's in circulation, the US dollars, was printed within the last 24 months. We're an old country, right? Not compared to other countries, but we were founded, in 1776? And 80% of our money was printed within the last 24 months, right? That's kind of a red flag. How are you guys feeling about the cost of goods? Because that's been the hot topic as of late. It's like, the CPI index, basically the fancy calculator that they use to determine, are the cost of goods more expensive today than they've been in the future? And I would say, heck yes. I was looking at a chart earlier today in preparation for this meeting, and they were talking about how food at elementary and secondary schools has gone up over 254%. Man, I don't have a kid that's old enough to go to school yet, but I might send them with the sack lunch. 254%. How are you guys feeling about the cost of fuel? It's up 65%. The cost of eggs, 49.1%. You've got airline fares, 36%. Butter and margarines at 34% up. You've got flour and prepared flour mixes, 24%. Public transportation, 23%. Pasta, 16%. Bread, 15%. That's a lot, right? Those are double-digit increases. Those aren't single-digit increases. So the reason why I bring that up today is for our new folks that are just joining. I want you to know that you're in the right place at the right time with the right people. Because I firmly believe that, there's things that we can't change, but we can certainly get prepared for it. And when you think about us as a company, MWR Financial, our goal is to increase cash flow. The more money you have available, the better decisions and choices you can make. So whether you're doing that in an instant pay raise, make sure that you're no longer overpaying on taxes. You can put that money to something else, right? To pay down debt. You can do a lot of good with money that's freed up. How about the bill shredder program? I know there's some of you guys on here that have had, like a cost of a $600 bill that's dropped down to $300 bill. Maybe it was your utilities or some just, like your Verizon bill. That's a significant decrease. The American family, when they file for divorce, it's over a $500 discrepancy, right? So you reduce the amount of money that's going to the government. You reduce the amount of money that you're paying in your everyday bills. Well, you've already found an extra $500. And we haven't even talked about other programs yet. So you're with the right people at the right time and ultimately the right mindset. Because you can create your own personal economy. Do you guys agree? You can create your own personal economy. You don't have to participate in what others participate in. It's like just because your family had some bad financial habits, that doesn't have to be your story. And just because I grew up in a trailer as a kid, that doesn't mean that my family has to experience that as well. And by the way, right, I love my family. My father is my hero. But it's like when you know better, you're supposed to do what? Do better. And he is leagues beyond where he started as well, right? I don't want to knock hardworking people, but when you understand the differences of being a W-2 income earner versus a business owner, doesn't that open up an entire world? It's like, holy cow, I didn't even know there was that many tax codes. It's insanity. A W-2 income earner has access to roughly about 12 different deductions. When you become a business owner, you open up the world to 114. Right. And I might have misquoted that. It could be 120, right? Over 100 different tax codes as a business professional. That's how you start to take the gap of, well, I'm in a negative cash flow situation. If I am able to redirect more money into my own personal household, well, that fixes things and it fixes it quick. Now, what do we do with the economy as a whole? I mean, I don't know, but you got to figure out, again, preparation meeting opportunity. You want to be able to be prepared for what's happening, because when you're prepared, you have more choices at your disposal. Heck yeah. When you're reactive, that list of choices does what? It shrinks. It goes down to one or two. Nobody makes good decisions when they only have access to one or two decisions. That's when you get into, a situation to where financially it hurts you and it hurts you bad. You get into setbacks. You take a loan that you really didn't want to take because, well, you didn't have the choice. It was just the demand. You made it through, but you could have made better decisions. So we're going to talk about preparation meeting opportunity today. And, this is where we're going to dive in today. So as we get into the private reserve account, and we're going to address the 4 different pillars of a good investment, right? So we call it the 4 cornerstones of a strong financial foundation. Well, you can see this green arrow here. Especially in inflationary times, the demand on money to grow today is more than it's ever been in a very long time, 20 plus years. So if your money isn't making money, if you have your money sitting in a bank account to where it's non-performing, you're going broke the safest way possible. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense, right? If you want to go out and make a difference, right? You got to go for it. Safety. If you're going to have a strong financial foundation, it has to have safety. There's nothing worse than making money and then losing it. And that goes out to my folks in 2007 and 2008. Remember when your 401k was at a certain dollar amount and then overnight it disappeared? You lost 40% of it virtually in a single day. I mean, that's a math problem, right? So you want to make sure if you're growing your money that it's got a safety feature as well. Tax advantages. Right? We talked about all the challenges that's happening in the economy. We didn't even talk about taxes. And I ask the question often, how do you feel about taxes today? And most people, they'll answer, well, they're as high as they've ever been. And you know what? The facts are is they're the lowest that they've been in about 60 years. I'm going to get into that later. But just know you want accounts that have tax advantages to where if the government, if they change the rules at a later time, that you're not financially suffering based on somebody else's decisions. You and I, we don't vote the tax codes in, but they certainly spend the money that ultimately controls what? The tax codes. So make sure that you have tax advantages, protection. When you die, who do you want that money to go to? Your resources, your assets, your legacy. Certainly don't want it to go to the government. Right? There's 2 people in this world that I don't trust more than anything else. It's a loan shark and the government. right? So you want to make sure that the money that you're growing, that it's going to go to the family that you love, that legacy is going to live beyond you. So as we get into this and we talk about the demographics of life, look at that great smile. This is Mr. Richard Branson, which is, widely recognized as Mr. Midas. He's a billionaire. Everything he touches turns to gold. And this is a Forbes article that he was a part of that talks about why we're in the greatest retirement crisis in the history of the world. Are you guys feeling that as well as you're out in the world? It's like, are people retiring earlier than they expected or much later? Much later. People are retiring well after their 70s, not because they want to, it's because they have to. In coming decades, there's going to be millions to retire into poverty. Nobody loves working 40 years at a job that they really don't like. Maybe you do love your job, but if you work 40 years for someone else, aren't you ready for a life of prospering? It's like after 40 years, you put your time in. It's time to get to the abundance stage. But unless you build your financial plan that way, you're going to experience poverty, a fixed income. And it only gets worse as inflation increases. If you're on a fixed income, you're really feeling inflation, aren't you? You're really feeling these tax changes. You'll even feel these tax changes more because you're gonna have to be reactive versus proactive. The list of choices goes from 10 to 2. Too frail to work, too poor to retire is the new normal. Why did this happen? Pensions. Well, pensions used to be abundant, didn't they? It's like, man, they were everywhere. When you worked for a company, they offered a pension, at least 60% of them in the 1980s. So it's a few years back. But what was a pension? It was an agreement that you had with the company that you were going to give them your loyalty for an extended period of time, and then they would promise to pay you income until you passed away. Whether it was 10, 20, or 30 years, you gave some good time to that company, and they honored you by saying, well, I'm going to give you income for the remainder of your life. Thank you very much for your service. So why did we move away from this pensions? Well, they figured out that, gosh, if I'm responsible for a pension as a company, I have what? Liability. As a business, you try and limit your liabilities. And this was more apparent than ever. Do you guys remember that small company called Enron? Right? They were on the Fortune 500. They were, quote unquote, too big to fail. Well, they were not too big to fail. In fact, we started to see what happens when pensions were mismanaged. They played the game of rob Peter to pay Paul. They robbed from their employee pension program to have an appearance of profitability for who? Not their employees, but for their shareholders, because that's who they really cared about. That's when, again, companies started to look at, well, pensions create liability. What happened? 401ks were introduced because on the onset, 401ks sound really good. It's like, hey, you're going to be responsible for your own financial outcome. Sign me up. I like being responsible for my own financial outcome as well. But, well, there was a little hitch in the game, right? Throw the asterisks in there. What was the problem? Well, you can see that the ugly truth is that the 401k has been a lousy product and a financial flop. How do we know that to be true? Well, the 401k has been around for a number of years. And if it was working, don't you feel like it would kind of be working? We'd have more people retired now than ever than less, right? We'd have the opposite problem happening. So as we look at these different news articles, guys, you can see that there was a CBS News segment, 60 Minutes, retirement dreams disappear with 401ks. Is your 401k a total scam? This was a Forbes article. And then they had a TV segment, The Retirement Gamble, that was featured on PBS.org, The Front Line. Man, that is if I recommend going to YouTube and watching this segment. It is eye-opening. Why and what happened? So let me back up a little bit, because I've gotten a couple calls over the last months of people that are like, hey, you really don't like 401ks, do you? And it's not that I don't like them. It's, do you know if you have the good kind or the bad kind? It's just like cars. Do you know if you have a good car or a bad car? I mean, you can take that and associate with anything in life. A good computer, bad computer. Good shoes, bad shoes, right? You got to know that you've got the good kind or the bad kind. How do you know? Well, give us a call and we can go through that explanation. But the bad kind looks like this. Money that's, stock market risk, right? My face is kind of covering this though. But the three major risks are: number one, stock market risk. Timing is very difficult in the money game. It's like nobody has a crystal ball. If we had a crystal ball, we'd have a world full of millionaires and billionaires rather than the top 1%. Also, you've got hidden and excessive costs. Were you guys aware that every 1% cost that you have inside of your 401k costs you about a decade of retirement income? So what if you had 2%? That's 20 years of sustainable retirement income that is being paid in a fee to somebody, whether they do their job or not. In most most 401ks, they're anywhere from 2 to 3% if you have the bad kind. If you have the good kind, it's roughly around 1%. So you want to know that tax risk. Well, Court, why do we have tax risk? Have you guys looked at the government's budgets? I mean, when you look at, not the budgets, right? When you look at the total debt, have you guys ever pulled up the debt calculator? Well, currently it's relative to about $33 trillion, $34 trillion. That's a very large number. Has anybody ever attempted to count from 1 to a million? You spend a lot of hours. What about 1 to a billion? Even more. It takes 10,000 hours to count from 1 to 1 trillion. That's a lot of time. That means that those numbers are very big. $33 trillion. So the government, as you look out through history, when they've got a debt problem, it's not like they're good at cutting spending plans. They don't reassess where money's going and being allocated, do they? It's like, well, we need more money. What do? They vote in a higher budget, a better spending plan. So when you think about how the government is going to handle their debt problem moving forward, it's not going to be through cutting programs. It's going to be through what? Increased taxation. Most people don't know that after World War II, tax rates were as high as 94%, depending on your income. 94%. That's crazy. Nobody in their right mind is going to pay 94 cents on the dollar. So that's when the 401k was introduced, right around there. So back then, you had a very good bet that tax rates were going to go down because they were extremely high. Well, where are we now in history? We're on the opposite side of that. Tax rates are low. They're the lowest that they've been in a very long time. So if you had the choice to pay taxes, do you want to pay them low or when they're high? Well, of course, I want to pay them when they're low, Cord. I'm with you. So when do you pay taxes on your 401k? Do you pay them now or do you pay them later? Well, yeah, I pay them when I take the money out. So you can see we got a math problem. Most people, they want to pay less tax, not more tax, but they have no idea when they're going to pay it, right? Or they haven't figured out how to pay it and when to pay it. So guys, when we look at the retirement gamble and the old way of thinking, it's using pre-tax dollars to invest in a company-sponsored 401k, contributing as much as possible and receiving a limited match from your employer, all so that you can fund your retirement and pay taxes later. This has been burned into the American psyche. How do I know this? Well, I'm 34 years young. And me as a kid growing up, and you probably as well, have been taught to what? Go to school so that you can what? Get that good job so you can get those employee benefits and put that money in that 401k. Now, again, I'm a huge proponent of the 401k if you got the good kind. But if you have the bad kind, you better run because that thing's going to cost you in the end. Is it possible that this is exactly what you should not be doing? What got my father to retirement or his father to retirement is not what's going to get me to retirement. The world is so different. It's kind of neat. We've got electric cars, self-driving cars, right? I couldn't have imagined a self-driving car. It's here today. It's not like it's here in 20 years. It's here right now. We've also got what? Different ways of earning money. Remember the virtual reality world? Did you guys know that people were selling real estate in virtual reality? Kind of blows my mind. What about non-fungible tokens, NFTs? It's like those were like the hottest item on the market, and now it's like the biggest scam ever. Nobody made any money, right? So you got to be aware of what's out there and where to place your money. So as we look at the new rules of retirement, they've changed. You want to save using after-tax dollars and pay taxes on the seed, not the harvest. Pay it before the taxes change, not after. Stay away from your company 401k plan if they do not provide a matching contribution. That's the difference between a good kind and the bad kind. Are they matching dollar for dollar? Do you know if it's 50 cents on the dollar? I've seen some plans that are doing 30 cents on the dollar, right? They're just getting worse and worse and worse. Never send extra money to your 401k above what your company will match. Why send it to a place that you can't touch till it's 59 and a half? Because, man, that could be a long time. It's like, I'll see you in about 30 years. Why would we do that? Because, well, sometimes we just don't know better. Overfunding your 401k is like playing Russian roulette with your retirement. Your goal is to grow your money with zero risk, access your retirement dollars tax-free, and create an income tax-free for your inheritors. When we look at the investment options, right? So let's look at the world of investment options. And this is according to the government. They look at it in 3 different ways. You've got one that's taxed now. This includes your mutual funds if you don't have it in some type of IRA. Or any type of tax veil. You've got your stocks, savings, CDs, bonds, treasuries. How do you know, by the way, if you've got a tax now vehicle? Well, the government, they send you a love letter every single year in the form of a what? A 1099. That notifies you that you had a gain in that account. And when you have a gain and it's not in any type of tax structure, you pay what? Capital gains. So that's what we call or consider the $1 million mistake. Why? Because your gains are not reinvestable. Right? If you have $1 and you grow it to $2 and you're liable for the 50 cents in between, that means you're only reinvesting what? That $1.50, not $2. So you can see compounding is not going to work as efficiently. The tax later bucket, man, the tax later bucket has been good to us for a very long time. But times have changed, haven't they? This includes your 401ks, your 403bs, IRAs, annuities, depending on some of them, and savings bonds. Again, we've already went over this. When do you want to pay tax? On the seed or the harvest? Do you want business partners, right? Think of it this way. I love this analogy because you guys have your business owners hats on today. And if you guys were going to create a business, right, and you've got a partnership, and you go to that individual and you say, hey, I want to build this amazing business. I want you a part of it. And your cut's going to be 20%. And they're like, hey, sounds great. Love it. I'm going to put my blood, sweat, tears, blood equity, whatever. We're going to grow this company. It's going to be amazing. And it is amazing. You build it from 0 to the Inc. 500, right? So you guys are crushing it. Well, then your business partner notices that you're crushing it. And they're like, they come to the table and they say, hey, Mr. Cord, 20% that we agreed on, thank you very much, but I'd like you to increase that to 50%. What are you going to tell that person to do? It's like, that wasn't our agreement. Go kick rocks. I love you, dude. But no, I'm not going to pay you anymore. But that's exactly the agreement that we have within the government and the IRS. They're our partner that can change the rule at any time. And it's not based on what we agree. It's based on their spending habits. It's based on the debt that they can't afford that ultimately we're going to be held liable for. Tax never, Roth IRAs, right? You've got annual limits to them. By the way, I love Roth IRAs. If you've got a Roth IRA, man, keep putting money into that thing. But the challenge is they have limitations. You can only put so much in per year. So, if you're a little bit older in life, right, you're not going to be able to put a significant amount that's going to make an impact later. Well, the PRA that has no annual limits, meaning you can put, if you've got a bunch of money sitting in the bank, you can move your money from the tax now bucket all the way over to the right side. Of course, you got to do it within the laws and limits. We'll help you do that. But this is, if you had the choice in which one would you choose? Well, I am choosing the one that gives me freedom, that gives me the ability to spend the money when I need it. And if I don't need it, it's going to grow and it's non-reportable. Because that's what this side of the sheet is. It's non-reportable income. When I spend it, I don't have to include it in my taxable income. You guys remember 2008? For some of you guys, it's like pouring salt in the wound. It's like, no, I wish I could not remember it. It's like, goodness, getting the sweats. It's like the night terrors. But the facts is that the average loss in 2008 was 38.49%. That's not a small number, my friends. That's a very large number. Again, we're talking about preparation. This is a number that you should never lose again because you're here. You have access to the information. Now it's about what? Application. Let's talk about the effects of risk on your retirement. So when you take a 38% loss, what ultimately happens with your account? This was literally such a profound experience for me when I first got into the financial industry, because logically, when you lose money, like let's just take this example here. So if you got $100,000 and you lose 10%, what does your mind logically tell you is going to happen? Like what amount do you need to recover? It's like, well, if I lose 10, I need to make 10 to make up for what I lost. Are you guys tracking? Does that make sense? I kind of mixed up my language there a little bit, but I trust you guys are with me. But the facts is that you need an 11.1% return to get back where you were the year prior, not just a 10% return. Why? You have less money earning on that return. So let's take a fast track here. If you have $100,000, you take a 25% loss. Your new account balance is $75,000. So in order to make up the difference of what you lost, you would need a 33% return just to get back even. So what if you took almost a 40% loss? Remember that 2007, 2008? Some of you do, right? I'm spooking you a little bit. It's Halloween. But if you have a 40% loss, that means your new balance is $60,000. You need a 66.7% return just to get back where you were the year prior. That's a gigantic number. That's not a number that you can find every single day, can you? So losing money matters. Don't only focus on your average rate of return. That's where they get you. That's kind of like that's a good marketing ploy for those companies. Why? Because they get to use that number to say, well, you averaged a 6% return over X period of time. But when you look at your account, it's like, okay, I think I'm supposed to have more money, but why do I have 80,000 instead of 100? Right? So losing money matters. So guys, as we keep going forward, what the wealthy know that most people don't is incredible. And I think we can all agree that the wealthy have access to information that everyday people don't. And I love Mr. Brian Bean because he says this so well. What does he talk about? There's two different sectors of information. There's the what? The public sector of information and the private sector of information. Where do most people get their information? From the public sector. So their lives look like the public. They're working a job that they hate. Also that they can, save money in a system that they don't understand, to where later they're upset that they don't have enough money and the government controls their life. That's the truth, isn't it? Am I speaking out of turn here? You guys tell me. The wealthy, they know tax codes a little bit more effectively than most people. Like it, love it, or hate it, that's the way that it is. There's a game being played. You can either be played or figure out how you fit in the system. Don't be mad at Jeff Bezos because he's not paying any taxes. He's using tax rules. He's playing the game effectively. He is using the tax rules that are available to him to where he's not paying any tax. And I trust you'll do the same, the further on you get in life. But according to the Federal Reserve, the richest 10% of Americans own over half of the tax-free investment gains. Families in the bottom half of the net worth percentiles own only 6.5% of the tax-free assets. I have to laugh because, right, sometimes if you can't cry, you got to laugh, but that's a crazy number. That's why this mission is so incredibly important. When you know better, you do better, don't you, folks? So, guys, as we talk about the retirement miracle, 5 great reasons to start saving the new way with the PRA, you can say the number one reason here is safety. As we talked about, losing money matters, doesn't it? When you lose money, it matters. So a PRA contract guarantees you're not going to lose money due to market declines. That's guaranteed contractually. Tax-free. The money inside of your PRA will grow what? Tax-free. It's non-reportable income. And it can be withdrawn as well. You've got accelerated benefits. It allows you to access your money when you need it without any penalties. So if you find that sweet real estate deal, that diamond in the rough, you're going to have access to the money and you're going to be able to take advantage of it. Where most people have their money, they can't take advantage of it. Or if they do, they get hit with that what? A 10% penalty, and they have to pay taxes on top of that. Right? So we got to shift our mindset a little bit. What's the purpose of this? Being preparation. Preparation meeting opportunity. Isn't that what we started with? Because when you have active money, when you have money that you can access, that means you're in preparation mode, right? And you meet that opportunity. Rate of return inside of a PRA, it compounds and produces higher returns historically. Interest on the principal, interest on the interest, and interest on the money saved in taxes. Can I get an amen or a hallelujah? Right? If I never had to pay taxes ever again, what would I do with myself? I don't know. I might do more jumping jacks. I don't know. It's just like, man, if I never had to pay the tax man ever again, life would be so different. I'm not an anarchist. I believe that there is a purpose for paying taxes. But I want my money that I'm paying for taxes to go to fix this dang pothole that's out in front of my yard. And it's been there too long. So I know that the money I'm paying into the system isn't serving the people. It's going to different places. Are you guys with me? So out of nowhere, it's more, you can see the rules of the money have changed, right? And nowhere is that more true than with your retirement. So guys, let's unpack this concept a little bit. And we're going to talk about the safe money index strategy, because I'm very visual by nature, and I trust you guys are as well. Right? If I see it, then it starts to make sense. When we look at $100,000, and let's say we're going to have one side that's using the indexed approach or the private reserve account. And then we're also going to show here, you can see with the market downturns, money in the market. So money in the market, you can win and you can lose. So as we have $100,000, and if you have an 8% upturn, market upturn, you would be credited that 8%, and you'd have 108,000 in total. So whether you have money in the market, whether you have money with the strategy of the private reserve account. But what happens if the market didn't perform that year? You had 1 year that it was up. The next year it was down by 8%. Well, if you're in the market, your new balance is 99,360. If you're in the private reserve account, you got credited 0. So when we talk about 0 being your hero, I think you guys are with me now. So you maintain your balance. You lock in the gains that you had the year prior. Think of this kind of like stepping upstairs. Got to take a step up a stair, and I could never go backwards. Now, what happens the following year is that there's a credit of 5%. The new balance in the private reserve account is 113,000 versus 104. So how much, what would your return need to be to catch up to the private reserve account? 14.12%. So you guys can kind of see the difference here. And as we start to wrap up, I realize I'm about 7 minutes over, but man, I trust that you guys are having a good time, because I am as well. We got to revisit the cornerstones of a strong financial foundation. It's growth, it's safety, it's tax advantages, and it's protection. What's available in the world of investments? You can see we don't have everything here, but we have a very, good sum here, right? This encapsulates most of the financial opportunities that are in the market today. And you can walk down this list: stocks, 401ks, Roth IRAs, annuities, life insurance, and the private reserve account. Notice that there's accounts that hit some of the green, right? It's got some of the green check marks, and then it's got some that don't have it at all. And then there's one that's got all 4 of the growth, safety, advantages, and the protection. So guys, as we wrap up here today, I want to leave you guys with a quote. And it's from one of my favorite people, and I'll kind of let you guys know who this is as we wrap up. But your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. That was from Mr. Steve Jobs. He built an incredible empire. But man, that really resonated with me today as I'm preparing my talk, as I'm getting together, what I'm going to share and tell you guys. Don't live your life as somebody else's life, just because, I think about, people that will take beliefs of, well, that's just the way that things are, and they'll live their life as that's just the way that things are. It's like, no, that's the way that your life is. There's a life of abundance out there. You can choose to have it. That's what this platform is about, baby, is being around like-minded people that are going to lift you up. We have no reason to take people down, because why? A rising tide lifts all ships. As we continue to build this community, I can't wait to see, as we go to dinner and we go to the most extravagant places in the world, that there's going to be a pool of people that the entire table is going to be fighting for the bill, just to have that moment of gratitude. Well, thank you very much for your time and attention tonight. I had a blast. I trust you got something out of this. And if you haven't scheduled your consultation with us, I trust that you're going to take advantage of it. And even if you have already an advisor, I want you to think about, do you trust your advisor enough to get a second opinion? And if you do, give us a call, because there might be something that you're doing currently that you don't want to regret later. Because what? If you thought something to be true and it wasn't, when would you want to know? That's the platform you have access today. So, Mr. Daryl Banks, I'll pass it off to you, and thank you much for the time.
Hey, Cord, Mr. Bernard, man, listen, I tell you, every time you discuss this information, it just enlightens us even more that we have to get our financial well-being in order, because what's in place for most W-2 employees, and even those that are already well off, they don't know about this type of an account that can help accelerate their growth. So we are here to educate you all to be sure that you are in the position to win. With that being said, I want to thank you so much for your time and your attention tonight. Please join us on a platform next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. when we bring you yet another expert for this wealth membership that's totally exclusive through MWR Financial. With that being said, have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much.